Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. Let me get this thing straight here. Welcome to Massive Iron Live. It is Friday, August 27th, and I am Steve Shaw. Glad you guys could join me. I'll be on as long as you guys have questions. It is a hot week here in Ohio. It's scalding hot in my office, so if I die, I die. I got the Monster Energy drinks locked and loaded. I got a backup just in case, and I'll be on as long as you guys have questions. Hope it's been a good week. Introduce yourself, say hi in the comments if you're new here. If you're new, don't be shy about posting up questions. We welcome all questions. No question is a dumb question. Unless it's a dumb question, then it's a stupid question. So let me know how you guys' week is going. Big news here is tomorrow early I get a new dog. I'm going to pick up a puppy early in the morning. So it'll be a busy morning for me. And other news, my wife got her permanent residency card in the U.S., so she's able to stay. So all that 4 years of stress is behind us. So before I get into things, you guys tuning in late, and if I don't get a chance to answer your questions, you can send a question over on Instagram at BenTheBarman, and I would be happy to answer your question. Sometimes my DM box gets slammed, so it can take me, up to a week to get around to things. But be patient; I'll definitely get to your questions. And if you post up a question here and I don't see it, I'm not ignoring you. YouTube can be very funny. And if I don't see your question, just try shortening it or try putting it up again. A lot of times, what it'll do is it will not put up longer questions. So I don't know why. Just a silly thing. All right, let's dive into things. And before I do so, guys, if you need coaching, head over to my website, which is right here. There's a coaching tab. And there's it's only $80 a month. I'm with you every single day. We do a phone call and we go over everything. I'll do your workout, your nutrition. We'll work on exercise form, everything. So there is muscle building, power building coaching, and weight loss coaching. The weight loss coaching is only for those of you that just want to lose weight and don't want workout help. So I leave that option available. All right. So Stein is early in from Norway, back on top of the board. And Richard Murray from Scotland, second. And Richard said, saw your post today about Fiona. Congratulations. Great news. And thank you, Richard. I sincerely appreciate that. And hopefully YouTube will notify. YouTube is very slow to notify folks of live videos. And right now we got 24 folks on, but it'll eventually notify folks. So what do we got here? 3 days grace. My gym doesn't have safety bars, racks. I'm close to mastering the weight on the squat machine. Soon I'll have to transition to barbells. Should I do front squats or zerchers? My gym doesn't have a safety bar or rack. What does your gym have for squats? That's the question. Does it have anything at all? I mean, really, squatting can be pretty safe as long as you shut down a set, a couple reps short of a failure. Front squats aren't really going to be any different than back squats. You just have to use your best judgment. Not sure why. Not sure what the concern is with barbell squats, back squats compared to front squats. It's pretty much the same beast. So I'm curious. I'd have to learn more information. 3 days grace. What are you front squatting out of? What does the rack look like, etc.? Jacob, do you think it's necessary or do you recommend a lockout on bench? Why wouldn't you, Jacob? Why wouldn't you? There's no benefit to not locking out. I don't care what anybody says. It's like super overthinking, waste of time crap. It is. There's no benefit to getting one extra microsecond of tension over the course of 4 to 5 years, if you're practicing progressive overload on a quality variety of chest exercises, pressing exercises, you're going to build a lot of muscle and none of this crap that people focus on. It's a complete waste of time. Bottom line, complete waste of time. Lock out your bench. Absolutely. I've done it for 35 years. There's no downside. You're not going to lose 1 microsecond of mechanical tension that's going to cause you to lose gains. People that post up this stuff, really, they're standing in front of an oak tree and all they see is the oak tree and they miss the forest. So don't worry about it. Some people said face pull is more rehab exercise than a rear delt builder. Face pulls are way over. The importance of face pulls are way exaggerated compared to, do we sit a lot? Yes. But when it comes to strengthening the rear delts and back, you got to do your back work. That's the primary focus. That should be the primary focus, your rows and that sort of thing. And the obsession with face pulls, that's a fad, that's a trend. And it's the over obsession on it's really silly. It's not even a very good exercise because eventually when you start to do progressive overload on it, you find that you have to lean back and it's hard to, the more weight you add, the more you're fighting against that weight and you got to lean back and do all kinds of shenanigans. I'm not saying not do face pulls, but as a rear delt builder, I don't think it's a great exercise. Bent over reverse flies, and your biggest weapons in building rear delts are dumbbell rows, barbell rows, seated cable rows, lat pull downs, pull ups, all the big back exercises. Paul, congratulations to you and your wife. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. And Scruffy like a boss. Would you recommend touch and go bench or pause bench? It depends on the situation. What I recommend first, Scruffy, is that you have control during your eccentrics on bench. What I mean is you're just not, it's just not all gravity taking the bar down to your chest. You want to focus on the bench on rowing the bar towards your chest, okay? If I see somebody benching, and they're just letting gravity take the bar, then I might stop. Then I might say, hey, let's work on some pause bench, because when you pause, it forces you to control the weight. So do I program pause bench in? Not a lot. I focus more on getting the good eccentric control for folks. And once they got that, if I sense they have a little bit of issue with controlling the bar, or if they have a little bit of issue with chest, I might add in pause bench. You can usually if you come to this crossroads, what you want to do is use both. What I would do is alternate week in and week out between bench and pause bench. There's no downside to that. So just keep that in mind. Red, Wild, Bear. It's the lockout on overhead press important for shoulder. No. Look, I lock out everything, or I don't even know if I lock out. This stuff is way overthinking, guys. You're way overthinking. Get strong. Get strong using a reasonable amount of volume and hard sets. Locking out, this obsession with mechanical tension and locking out in the split second of locking out is just a huge, huge waste of time. Hello from no, the thing is, like, I lock out my bench. Do I lock out my overhead press? Probably for a split second. It's nothing I ever think about. Just keep the movement natural. Hello from Norway. As always, been following you for almost 2 years. Thank you, and I appreciate it. Sincerely do. Bill from DC. What's going on, Bill? I hope you are ready for a good weekend. Hope you guys have some good weather. I think they got a a hurricane headed down south, and usually that messes up the east with extra rain or stuff like that. Who knows? Add eel is important. Oh my good. Stop with the lockout questions, guys. Where are you guys getting all these lockout questions from? Is it important to lock out the lockout of lockouts to lock out correctly? Asking for a friend. I'd go slap that friend right in the face. The lockouts. It's important to get strong and be consistent. Like, seriously, we live in a world where If you take 100 lifters, how many of those are super strong for 5 years and super consistent? How many of those follow progression approach for 5 years? And how many of those are super consistent for 5 years? Very few. And those that are big. Those that aren't are weak, and they spend their time worrying about crap like this. It's just such a huge waste of time, guys. And I'm not, I don't know. Let's move on. Thoughts on four-day push-pull legs? That's fine. What I typically do for my clients, and what I would suggest for you guys, to get some exercise variety, and I put in push-pull legs A, push-pull legs B. So we have 6 workouts, and what you do, a good way to approach it is to cycle between those 6 workouts over the course of 4 days. So you can do push A, pull A, legs A, and then on your 4th workout for the week, you do push B, and then next week you start with pull B and legs B, and just rotate between those 6 workouts. So that's absolutely fine. You're getting in some frequency, you're getting in some exercise variety, so it looks good. Sebastian, I'm struggling to keep the lower back straight in the deadlift. Any tips? Yes, hire me as a coach. 9 times out of 10, it's a positioning issue. How far your feet are under the bar, how high your hips are or aren't, etc. So outside of the cry to call me, or the plea to hire me as a coach, really what you want to do is look at your hips. Are your hips too high? Then your lower back, you're going to place more stress on your lower back as you pull. Are your hips too low? As you pull, you're going to place more stress on your lower back. Is your weight on your heels when you stand up or when you start to pull? When you're pulling on the deadlift, are you yanking on the bar or you're trying to stand up? Because focusing on standing up, that's a natural movement. That'll help your hips stay in position. That'll help your lower back as well. So there's many things I would have to look at, Sebastian. But in general, those are some good starting points. No gym and no equipment. I'm a beginner. How can I get strong, big legs? Get a gym membership or get some equipment. I mean, I'm not trying to be, sarcastic here, but that's the way it's got to be. I mean, you got to get some equipment. You got to get a gym membership. If you have no resistance, you're not going to get big legs. You can do all the body weight jump squats in the world and all the lunges in the world, but you would have to work on progressions like crazy. I'm not sure what your situation is, Stan, but I'm just saying. Paul, how's it going in Vancouver? Dungeons and Dumbbells. First time I could attend in a while. How's everything? Good. I've been watching you on Instagram. I think I just saw your pull-ups or chin-ups set this week. Impressive. When are you getting your wee sausage dog? I'm getting him tomorrow morning, bright and early. So I'm getting up straight out of bed at 6 a.m. I'm driving 2 hours to get my new dog, and he will be home by noon, and I'll have a picture up on Instagram. My wife's calling him Mr. Jellykins because we have Peanut, who's my pit bull, and we have Mr. Butters, who is my wife's sausage dog. So we have Peanut and Mr. Butters, and my wife thinks it's funny. She's calling my new dog Mr. Jelly. So on my desk, I'm actually going to have a cabinet and a little bed for the guy, and he's going to sit here all day long while I annoy my clients. Any advice for developing mid and lower traps? Use one of my programs. What I do is put together a well-rounded plan of attack for the back and traps and yoke. So the back is a muscle group that has a lot of exercises at your disposal. So use a wide variety of exercises, work in some exercise. We're having trouble streaming to Twitch. Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry, I just got a notification. Use a wide variety of exercises for your back. Rotate them in, maybe every other workout: dumbbell rows, barbell rows, seated cable rows, lat pull downs, machine rows, T-bar rows, Meadows rows, lat pull downs, pull-ups, the whole 9 yards. And if you work on that and you get things a lot stronger than they are now, you're going to be fine. You mentioned 5 years with everything done correctly to hit muscle potential. Is that something you still believe 100%? And can you explain individuals who take greater than 5 years to increase PRs? They fuck off a lot. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And that's not a criticism, but how many people hit the ground running and do everything perfect right out of the first 5 years? Not many. It's because there's so much misinformation out there, so much bad information out there, and life happens. People stop at the gym so often. There's a lack of consistency, a lack of nutritional consistency. There's not many people who do it right for the first 5 years. So that's why it takes people greater than 5 years. Some will never get there because they spend all their time, trapped in bad information or inconsistency or whatever. Leg day today. All right, get after it. Lockout, LOL. Let me get a drink here, guys. Do you recommend warm-up sets? Absolutely. You can't not do warm-up sets. Warm-up sets exist to, number one, get you connected with that exercise. Are all my muscles feeling good? How my quads feeling? How my hammies feeling on squats? How my hips feeling on system engaged? Because if you don't do this, your body's not just going to say, hey, we know a big squat set is coming, so we're going to prepare the central nervous system. You have to kind of warm up the central nervous system. The body's not going to recruit a maximum amount of muscle fibers just because you will it to be. Like my next set, I want you to recruit a maximum amount of muscle fibers. That tends to only happen on sets above 85%, and we're not really training at that level as well. So warm-up sets are an essential for mainly central nervous system and muscle fiber recruitment. And everybody needs them. Milo, hello from Sweden. Hey, Milo, thanks for joining me today. As Isaiah, is walking beneficial for muscle recovery during rest days? General activity, I think, is very beneficial. I think there is some really good value in a two-pronged attack. Number one, sitting on your ass on rest days, resting if you're generally pretty active, and then getting some time where you do some active recovery that's pretty mild. I find that when I do that, I tend to recover a little bit more quickly. I feel like I recover a little bit more quickly. So walking, I would say, is one of the best ways to do that. Very low intensity, non-stressful on the body, get the blood flowing, etc. Christian, hi from Wales. Hey, Christian, we will be visiting Wales hopefully sometime in the near future when all this chaos gets better. And guys, if you're new here, post up your questions. I'll be on as long as you have questions. And if not, I'll just jump ship, but keep them coming. The herd. I've added light reverse flies on an incline bench before my heavy press days, and it's been a game changer. That's great. I mean, part of lifting is finding out what works for you and what feels good as a, preparation. Oki Power. T-spine strengthening will help back rounding in the deadlift as well. I have no idea what you're talking about. All right. And I'm not being dismissive. I don't know what kind of overthinking voodoo this is. T-spine strengthening. Back rounding is more discipline than anything, Oki Power. So I'm not being dismissive. I really don't know what you're talking about. But lower back rounding is usually a function of discipline and setup, weight being on your heels, hip position. Even in that, you don't see a lot of lower back rounding. Lower back rounding is usually a function of a really poor setup. Is flat barbell bench and incline dumbbell bench enough variation? I don't like questions like this because there's good, better, best, right? And can you get away with just two exercises? Yeah. Would that be the best? No. I'd like to see a dumbbell variation, a barbell variation, if you could, a dumbbell and a barbell variation with an incline. I have my clients do dips and push-ups, supersets, maybe a machine chest press because that has a big progression opportunity. There you got 4 exercises. So I would try to work in a little bit more variation. That's fine, but I would prefer to see a little bit more variation if you can squeeze it in. Stan, updates on your documentary. Good question. We've been filming a documentary called 96 Hours. And it got derailed by the whole COVID thing. And we hit another snag. Our filming crew was from the UK and they couldn't get over. And then my filming crew just told me they had to take other gigs and now they can't make it over. So we're without a filming crew and we're kind of in limbo trying to figure out what to do right now. I watched a guy bench 450 in the gym yesterday and he told me he does 3 chest days a week. That's great. He's gonna overwork things and it's gonna catch up to him. Okay. The connection point here, Paul, is that people are gonna read this and then they're gonna be like, if I do 3 chest days a week, I'm gonna bench 450. Number one, the guy's a freak. There's not a lot of 450 benches at a powerlifting meet, and what he does is not the golden key for anybody else. Number 2, for the average individual, you're going to be overworking the movement pattern a lot. So you might want to chill on that a little bit. So good for him, but I would not recommend it. Have you ever punched your numbers into Meadows Henselman's genetic potential calculator? I do my own stuff, Kevin. I've been doing genetic natural potential and creating formulas when Menno was in diapers. So he probably punched his stuff into my calculator. Not trying to be a smart ass here, but I have formulas on muscle and brawn that we put together, based on Casey Butt stuff a long time ago. So a lot of the work these guys are doing is platformed built off of Dr. Casey Butt's work. And I was one of the guys back on Dr. Casey Butt's forum way back in the day. I had, my own rudimentary formulas that were streamlined of Dr. Casey Butt, but that kind of predates you guys. So, natural genetic potential is kind of one of the areas of study that I've been involved with for many, many, many years, predating guys like Menno Henselman. That's how old I am. My neck, calves, and forearms are fully grown after 3 years of training, apparently. I don't know. I'd have to see the numbers. A calculator, if you're close, you're close. But one of the issues with the calculator is most guys think they're leaner than they are. So leanness can inflate your size and your potential, if that makes sense. If you're fat, if you're overweight, obese, it can take your arms from 16 and a half to 19 and a half, depending on your degree of obesity. So with that in mind, a lot of people underestimate how their body fat percentage, and it can really skew these things. So you really need someone that knows their stuff to make sure you're pretty spot on with your body fat percentage. Do you bike or Zwift for cardio? No, I don't even know what a Zwift is. Excuse my ignorance, no clue. Not a big fan of biking. Running and hiking and walking are it for me. And elliptical. Sean, what's going on? Calorie surplus. How do you suggest to use it when you do suggest to stop it, and when you do your advice to go back? Calorie surplus. How do you suggest to use it? When do you suggest to stop it? And when do you advise to go back to it? Calorie surplus is derived from my clients based on the scale. So the average individual is going to benefit probably from gaining 1 to 1.5 pounds of weight a month, and calorie surplus is going to be dialed in based on that. So when do you suggest to stop it? You don't have to stop it as long as you're making good progress. Just know over time, if you are on a good track with muscle building, progress is going to slow after the first year and then even more after the second year, if you are making good progress. So it is good to work in periods of cuts, not only to maybe drop a little bit of fat, but also to maybe desensitize the body to hard training, give it a break, give it a chance to lick your wounds a little bit, right? So it's really highly individual. It depends on how experienced somebody is. It depends on their body fat percentage, and it depends on where they are at mentally. So there's no one size fit all answer, Sean. It's highly individual. Oriole, sumo versus conventional. Either, things like this are not either or questions. It really depends on the individual. I have clients that come on board and it's hard for them to get their hips down because of their limb lengths. So in those cases, sumo might be better, but they might like conventional. So there's really nothing magical. It's one piece of the puzzle. There's no magical answer to the question. There's one piece. It's only one piece of the puzzle, the deadlift. And which one you use can be based off of limb lengths and preferences. In a perfect world, if you want to, I believe, if you want to get your deadlift as strong as possible, you should do both sumo and conventional together for a year. Favorite hamstring builder. My favorite hamstring builder is probably something that's pretty accessible for everyone. If you have a back extension machine in your gym, you can do glute ham raises. So when you come up on the back extension, you raise your torso up on your knees, and you can get a good hamstring contraction, good hamstring action on that. So I like doing glute ham raises on a back extension machine. I like that a lot more than leg curls. Leg curls always feel weird to me. I still do them. And I like them more than Romanian deadlifts and stiff leg deadlifts and things like that. Had food poisoning yesterday and just managed to keep food down today. In the short term, do you think that? No. Well, yes, in the short term, absolutely. Your central nervous system might be, short-circuited a little bit. What you need to probably do is take a day and just drink water, get in your electrolytes, and rest, and let your system normalize a bit. The reaction is probably, let's get back to the gym and get after it. But I would make sure I've had food poisoning before. It's probably a good idea to get back to the point where you feel okay and you're able to eat normally for a day. And then after that, I would probably go to the gym the next day. Red Wild Bear, thoughts on BA rest, legs, push, pull, rest, BA, B in your upper lower approach, B, legs and back. All right, let me digest this. Thoughts on legs and back first. Then upper lower, that's fine. Rest. So then we're doing legs again. Pull, push. That can be fine, but the only issue I have is if you're trying to deadlift after a heavy leg day or hamstring day. I don't know that I would want to do that. I think a better way to do that if you are deadlifting on the pull day would be BA, which is legs and back, and then upper lower, which is chest, shoulders, and arms for those keeping score at home. Then rest, then legs again, maybe push, and then pull. But the push you're going to be working back and biceps. I'm just thinking this through. The pull, you're going to be, working chest, shoulders, and triceps. So I'd probably swap around the push and pull. Thank you for having the patience with me. Hey, I'm always glad to help everybody. And the biggest in life I have to do is have patience with myself. Are you familiar with Doug Brignol's theories on training? No. Not at all. Everybody keeps asking me that, and I don't really follow other people much at all. I don't have time for it. People are asking me a lot about Doug, and I don't. So I'm very sorry. How do I know my ideal body weight to aim for? Does it relate to height? It depends on what your goals are. I don't know what your goals are, and I don't know what your height is. It does relate to height. One thing you need to understand as far as height is that for every inch you are taller, your body's going to weigh 4 to 5 pounds more just from bone and blood and all the stuff, right? And for every inch you're shorter, the body's going to weigh 4 to 5 pounds less from having less stuff in that inch, right? So that's a rough estimate. So if you're trying to calculate your ideal weight, it does indeed relate to height. Should I stop lifting and taking supplements for a few days before a comprehensive blood test? Supplements aren't generally going to impact anything major, B12, D3, a multivitamin. But, if you're doing a comprehensive blood test, and you really want some true numbers, I'd probably just stop everything and just eat normally, because let's be real. If you want a comprehensive blood test, you don't want to switch to keto 2 days before and mess up your system or really switch your diet. So, yeah, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to stop taking supplements. I wouldn't change your caffeine intake. But, yeah, thinking through it's probably not a bad idea. Larry, if you usually lift and take substance, surely continue this. Okay. Is deadlift a back or legs movement? Deadlift this is the problem with this type of thinking, Chip Monkey. It's toxic bodybuilding thinking, where every lift has to go in a box, a body part box. That's not the way it works in real life. We don't get to move things into body part boxes. They don't fit all the time. But when you look at what it impacts the most, that's a better way of looking at it with the understanding of what it also hits. So the deadlift more so than the squat is more of a full body movement. And I'm not saying it works everything equally at all, but it is much more of a back taxing movement than it is legs. And I'm not talking about lower back. I'm talking about upper back, traps. I'm talking about erectors, everything. So deadlift in my world always leads off a back day. One all-out set per exercise, but how about back-off sets per volume? I got some theories on this, Josh. I mean, one all-out set is fine, but I'm actually putting together a workout right now where you do a prime set for volume. So let's say you want to do an all-out set with 185 on bench, and your goal is about 8 to 10 reps. I would like to do a prime set where it's like 185 by 8, and then the second set 185 by max, and then the third set. And I was talking with Faz a little bit about this, would be some kind of a rest pause or drop set. So then you would do 185 again, and then maybe do some bulldozer type of training rest pause where you rack the weight, do 20-second rest, 15-second rest, unrack and do more reps. So many ways to do things, but I would prefer to see 2 all-out sets, or the first set is more of a prime set, and then the second set all-out, or the first set all-out, and the second set more of a get your reps in, then do a drop set or a rest pause a couple of times, if that makes sense. Many ways to do it, but I personally, with what modern hypertrophy is showing us, there's some value in additional volume, but it's got to be quality volume. Have you ever used a reverse hyper, and what's your take on it? Yes. And I'd like to pull it up for those of you guys that don't know what a reverse hyper is. Hold on a minute. Let me just pull it up here. Let me see if I can pull up a good picture of a reverse hyper. Reverse hyper. It is one of these things here. For those of you guys, you might have this in your gym and you might not know what it is, or you might have seen it on the interwebs and you might not know what it is. That's a reverse hyper. And a lot of times they don't have those pads like this guy has on his feet. And a lot of times they just have like a strap. Do I like it? No, I don't like it at all. I'm number one, you got to jump yourself up onto this platform. And as a guy, I always find it a little bit awkward. You got to kind of jump up and land like a seal on your belly. And for women, it's kind of even worse. So it's annoying for me in that sense, but that's trivial, right? But as an exercise, I just don't like it. I simply find other exercise variations better or easier, or that don't require $1,000 piece of machinery like this. There's so many good exercises I can replace it. I just, I've tried doing leg curls on it, where you just use it as a leg curl device, and that can be kind of awkward. There's this momentum that takes place with a reverse hyper. You have to be super disciplined. I'm not saying you can't be disciplined. I'm not saying you can't get value out of it. It's just not my favorite for all these reasons. It's not something I look forward to. All right, too fast for you. Any suggestions for strength off the floor when deadlifting? Yes, more quad strength. I would start there, and that would include things beyond squats. Get some leg press volume in, get some hack squat volume in, get some lunges in, get your quads strong. That'll help off the floor. Which do you think is the better way to be in a calorie deficit? By eating less or by doing more activity? Eating less. Activity should be about 7,500 steps a day. And if you're below that, you need to check your pulse. It's not good for health. You can do a little bit more, but it's hard to get calories. You have to do a lot more, to burn the amount of calories to get in a deficit. And that's a huge, huge time investment. And it's much easier to eat 200 fewer calories a day. So you want a reasonable amount of cardio or activity. Let's talk about it as activity. But it's just much easier to cut your calories by a couple hundred a day. My chest is only 39 inches, and calculator reckoned I could grow 5 or 6 more. You can grow a lot bigger than that. Wonder if it was realistic. You can get bigger than that. Depends on what body fat percentage you want. Have you talked with John Meadows? When I was at Tiger Fitness, I talked with John. John had the supplement line, and we explored content ideas to help gain some traction for his brand. And I'm not talking negatively about John, but one thing I can tell you about John is that he never wanted to give away his training secrets or his training approaches or his training philosophies other than to paying clients. Again, not criticizing John, but I tried to get him to do an arm workout with us, some kind of no way John wanted to give it up. So I respected that. My main concern now that he's passed is that, will we ever be able to completely explore his training philosophies? I hope so. I hope there's some way to correlate them or some way to put them together in a book format, not only to honor John and his philosophies, but also to maybe provide some financial support for his family. I don't know enough about his world to even know if that's a possibility. Ashton, assuming cuts aren't an option because they are growing. I'm not really sure what you're referencing here, Ashton. Let me go back. Did I miss something? Not sure what you're talking about, Ashton. You're going to have to maybe clarify a little bit. Congrats on Fiona getting a resident card. Thank you. All right, guys, we are about 40 minutes in. I'm going to stay on as long as you guys have questions. I appreciate you joining me. If you're new, please post up your questions. And no question is a dumb question. Unless it's a dumb question, then it's a stupid question. But go ahead, fire up your questions. Anything diet, train, nutrition. ultra running, off topic, anything. Because if I run out of questions, I'm going to jump ship. I prefer to stay on here. Big, hairy, ugly dude. Have you seen that the number one comorbidity for COVID? I think everybody's seen that, to be honest. Exercise and nutrition is the best medicine. Yes, sir. When it comes to anything in your immune system, taking care of yourself, I'm not diminishing the concept here, but I think it's rather obvious. Taking care of yourself is good for your immune system, right? So unless you're one of these people that believe you can be healthy at any size, which goes against every study we've ever done on obesity. Is there a bro split for powerlifting you would suggest? I like training 5 days a week, but low volume. Power building or powerlifting is pretty much the same as power building or muscle building in the first several years. You have an off season and you have a peaking season with powerlifting. So in the off season, the goal is to build strength and volume and to build muscle to create potential for more strength. So in the off season, you can pretty much do any split at all. So any of my workouts at my website, Super Living a Day, head over there and get you some, would be helpful. And from there, it's just adjusting the volume to fit your needs. One of the big myths about people getting into powerlifting is they think it's heavy, heavy, heavy all year round. The reality is that you have a building season and a peaking season. And that's one thing that many people do not understand. Okie Power, do you follow any of the strength sports? The only person I really follow on social media or closely is Brian Shaw. I watch his videos, are kind of entertaining on YouTube. I know he just did the thing with Arnold, and I'm not getting into all that. But no, I don't follow him much these days. These days, most of my stuff is with client work and just helping people with questions. So I kind of stay in that zone. I'm more of a baseball guy, Okie Power. When I'm not doing this stuff, I keep an eye on baseball, go to minor league games, that sort of thing. Jim only has hex plates. Tips for deadlifting while maintaining position on the floor. That can be a royal pain in the kazooski. So soy sauce banana, what you're going to have to do is you have a couple options. Number one, reset after every rep, and that means moving your feet, under the bar, and it can be really, really not easy, right? Just not easy. Number two, I have a protocol where you do as many singles or doubles as you can in 10 minutes. So that might be of value as well, something a little bit different than straight sets that allows you to reset a little bit. I mean, at a commercial gym, there's something that I own that I really doubt would fit in your gym bag, but you could probably get a gym bag big enough to fit these. All right, here we go. If you want to be super sneaky, these things right here, these deadlift pulling blocks, are only $69. I have them in my gym, okay? And it's probably unlikely you can get them in, sneak them into your gym. But these things can raise the bar off the ground a couple inches, and setting them down because of the broad base, I never get wobble on my deadlift singles by any noticeable degree. So I'm not sure if your gym would allow you to maybe bring them in, or maybe even encourage the gym to buy them. If not, you just kind of probably got to reset after every single. That's your best plan of attack. I like an all-out 5 to 8 rep set, then a higher back off 8 to 15, then maybe a double. That's fine. That's absolutely fine as long as you're getting the most out of it and you have a progression scheme or indicator. Do you like the Meadows row for back? I love the dumbbell row for back, but it's very easy to cap out on the dumbbell row in most commercial gyms, so that's where the Meadows row comes in. So the Meadows row, it's it's a good replacement for the dumbbell row, and it's a good exercise you can use at your gym when you don't have heavy dumbbells. So it's a quality exercise. Beep boop. How long does it take for a custom-made plan to be made? I do them, and usually 3 to 4 days. This week's been extremely hectic for me. I have a couple custom plans I need to work on that have been in the queue for 7 days. This is extremely unusual for me because I was trying to buy a home this week, and I had a few other things go on, with my wife getting her green card finalized. So it's been an unusual week from a personal standpoint, usually 7 days at the longest. Have you ever had hernia surgery? Nope, never had it. No experience with it at all. I wish I could help you. But whenever you ease back into anything, the biggest thing is to go slower than you want to, because we want to get back and gun it, right? We want to get back into the gym and just get after things. The problem is, like, we don't always think of the body as we don't always think of the body as something more than muscles. We just think of the body as muscle, muscle, muscle. There's other things going on, connective tissue, etc. So when you have issues or injuries, you got to kind of let everything take its time and get back up to speed. After I tore my shoulder lifting an empty oil drum, it took me like a year to get my bench back up, and that's an extreme case. But just go very, very slow. Start light, super light, at a very small amount of weight if that feels good, and continue that pattern until you get up to speed. They should name a lift after you. I think my form of dumbbell rows. I've created some exercise variations like bulldozer laterals. I don't really name them like Shaw laterals because I would feel kind of silly doing that, but I've created a couple exercise variations over the years that I've never seen before, so I'll just let those be bulldozer variations. All right. Best foot position on the leg press or hack squat for quad strength. I think the best to start is with your legs a little bit higher up on the hack squat pad. It's easier. It's a good starting point. And on the leg press, there's so many different types of leg press machines that I would start someplace that just feels natural and adjust from there. I'd like to give you one answer for the leg press, Red Wild Bear, but there's so many different leg press machines, it's really hard to give a generic answer for that. But for the hack squat, a little bit higher up on the pad is a good starting point. I've stopped training arms on a bro split and feel better for it. Other muscle groups recover better. Not a fan of that at all. One thing I learned when I was benching, when I removed direct arm work, is that my eccentric speed started to slow and feel worse. And I started to pick up brachialis strains and minor strains in the wrists. So I'm not a fan of that at all. I'm a fan of well-rounded training. You don't have to do a lot of arm work. My arms also lost an inch in size. So you want to do your basics, and you also want to add some stuff for smaller body parts like that. And if you feel better for it, great. But I'm not a fan of that at all. Is it okay to do small workouts instead of days off? If you want to go in and just do calves or whatever, wrist rollers, yeah. As long as what you're doing doesn't impact the next day. So Stan says whiskey or cognac. And cognac is a variety of brandy. Correct me if I'm wrong. I never mess with cognac. I'm more of a whiskey or scotch drinker, and I'm right here near Kentucky. So we have a lot of Kentucky bourbon, a lot of bad Kentucky bourbon. But I'm more of a scotch or whiskey guy. And let's see. Let me show you what I just finished. This is is it going to come up? Yep. All right, here we go. I got this for my birthday like 2.5 years ago. This is Whistle Pig 12 year, very smooth. Okay, very smooth, and it's a rye whiskey. I like rough and I like smooth. I like a combination of rough or smooth. And if you want a smooth, sipping whiskey, like this will go well with a cigar. It's not aggressive, and it's not going to attack your palate. And I believe I was just looking at 20-year Whistle Pig. I saw 20-year, and I think that might be my next. So what's it, Whistle Pig 20-year? I don't even know. Well, somebody's going to say like, wow, that's super expensive. It took me 3 years to drink. I'd only have maybe one of them every other month or so. Is it wise to squat 3 times a week? It's not necessary. I would rather see you using exercise variations like leg press and hack squats for more well-rounded strength and muscle. I don't like squatting 3 times a week. It's not necessary. That doesn't mean you can't do it. I just don't think it's the best really for any goal, to be honest. Of all the people you've trained with, who trained the hardest? Good question, Woodulus. Good question. I trained with Ronnie Coleman before all of his surgeries, honestly. And Ronnie looks very animated in video. But in person, he's kind of like a lump. He's just kind of like, he goes in and does his stuff, but when you watch him train, it wasn't like anything spectacular. But then again, he wasn't training for the Olympia at the time. I trained with Donnie Thompson at his gym in South Carolina. He was once the strongest man in the world, powerlifting. And they train hard, but they train focused, but not hard. The hardest guys I've seen train are probably top natural bodybuilders. Probably the hardest I've trained. I can name a few of them. Back in the day, there was Mr. North Carolina, Joe Roblo, guys like that. Like I would go train with these natural bodybuilding champions, like state champions or whatever, and they train hard. Like Sean Clarita, the Giant Killer. I've worked on and off with Sean over the years. He's not a personal friend, but I've worked with him in the industry. He trains hard. Guys like Doug Miller. The hardest trainers I've seen are usually the top level bodybuilders. Powerlifters, that's a different type of hard. Like watching or training with top level powerlifters, that's more mentally hard, in a sense. Like it's like going to war watching these guys put this behemoth amount of weight on their back. So I don't want to say bodybuilders or powerlifters are better. They're different. But the top level guys getting it done, when you're in the room, it teaches you a lot about what is required to get to where you want to go. Thoughts on trap RDL instead of regular RDL? That's fine. What you need to do on the RDL is when you sink, you want to push your butt back like you're trying to push somebody away from you, right? And as far as lower back fatigue, you have to brace your core and only sink to the point where your lower back wants to break. And at that point, you need to come back up. So I was trying to think before about the cognac or whiskey. It wasn't Whistle Pig 20 year. It was Whistle Pig 18 year. This is going to be my next Christmas present. $350, yes. But this isn't something you drink like beer on the weekends. It's a luxury. And there you go. Got the sexy bottle, straight rye whiskey. That's super smooth. And again, I like a smooth whiskey and I like a rough whiskey. So this is a very smooth whiskey. What do we got here? Are you going to do coaching forever, or when do you plan to retire? I'm working right now to pay off this building. This is a downtown property in the middle of just an average size city. And when this is done, I'm probably going to reduce my client base to about 50%. And I want to do more writing. I want to do more program stuff. So I'll always want to be in this industry. But to what degree, that's going to depend on, how people, if people still want my advice. Thanks for asking my question. Thank you for your support. I've always been this guy that, not to babble, but on YouTube back in the day, I was just a guy that liked lifting. It was just, I liked lifting. And I just made videos about it and accidentally got into the industry as a writer and then a top editor at Muscle and Strength. And then all of a sudden, I was at Tiger Fitness. They recruited me. And all of a sudden, I'm in this world with all these celebrities and stuff. And I get into powerlifting and I do better than I thought I would. Not a great power lifter by any means, but, I've been like the old guard in YouTube. They're almost all, gone. For me, I'm like, I continue to grow each year and I'm thankful for that. It's only little steps, right? But when my videos get 5,000 or 6,000 now, 2-3 years ago, they were getting 2,000. So I'm proud of the fact that I've never been big. I'm not proud of that, but I mean, I've continued to grow over 10 years in this market. Now I'll continue to do my very best to give you guys the best information. I'll be 54 this year, and I want to not just be a gimmick and be the old lifter guy. I want to be the guy that just kicks ass at whatever age. I don't like the age thing. So I appreciate you guys' support. I really do. Saw your video on 5 mistakes when building muscle. I never realized how important taking notes on your progression is for growth. Yeah, I mean, really, when you want to progress in this realm, you need to have data. You need to measure your arms and legs. You need to track your calories to a reasonable degree. You need to monitor your progress. So many people think they have plateaus, and then when I ask them, where were your lifts 6 months ago? They have no idea. So tracking is extremely important if you're serious. This isn't a recreational activity. It's, if you want to be serious about muscle building, you need to monitor things to a reasonable degree. John Thompson, 5'8", 110, or 5'8", 110, whoa, more caffeine, 5'10", 180. Can do 3x5 sets of dips, 100 pounds strapped on. I come off the bottom of my bench. Well, I only have a 250 bench. I thought triceps help with the top part. Triceps do help with the top part. Dips are not always the best indicator of tricep strength. So there's other exercises you should probably be doing for your triceps. But you're doing well, John. But I would consider right now the assumption is kind of that you're strong in one thing, therefore you should be strong in another. What we probably need to do is attack your bench a little bit differently. When with my clients, I have for the more seasoned lifter with a good track record, we do benching twice in about an 8-day period, where they're doing a more lower rep type of work, and then they're also doing more volume work, and that's been working really well. And then we back that up with a good degree of shoulder training and tricep training. So, John, if you want help, head over to my website, superlivingtoday.com, right up here, and consider coaching. It's only $80 a month, but I'd love to help you. Wade, I love the bulldozers. My gamer tag has always been Bulldozer, so that's great. There was a band back in the day called Killdozer from Madison, Wisconsin, and I remember those guys always played really slow, really obnoxious, weird music. Oh my God, does this have Arnold in it? I'll probably let me mute this. I'll probably get blocked by YouTube, demonetized for playing music, because anytime you do that, I'm just going to let this run out and see if it actually, it's got 2 ads in front of it. It's called Killdozer. The pig was cool. Let's see if Yeah, here we go. I don't know if you guys can hear that. But this was a band from Madison, Wisconsin back in the day. Killdozer. They're all just always slow and trudging. I don't even know if there's any vocals in this. All right, enough of the torture. All right, let's move on. A Bulgarian lunge is more interesting than walking lunges. Depends on the individual, Mr. Kid said. It depends on the individual. It depends on what you find interesting. At the end of the day, when I have a client that's training at home, they tend to do Bulgarian split squats and a version of lunges together, both. Some like some don't like some, and we just make adjustments depending on what they like and what they don't like. What do you consider the best machines at the gym that you hardly have at home? Oh, man, good question. Hack squat. I would love a hack squat here. I love the hack squat more than I love the leg press. I mean, I like having a leg press around. I'd love to have one at the home gym, but super expensive, take up a lot of space. So the hack squat would be something I would love to have here. And what do I miss from a gym? Probably the ability to do a machine or shoulder overhead press, because you're really taking out of the mix an exercise that has a pretty big progression window that you can't do at home. And that might surprise a few people, but I got pretty much everything else. I don't know. That's really about it, I would say, for me. Would you recommend doing progressive overload for all exercises for a particular muscle group? Yes, you have to do progressive overload. Like, would you try to add a rep or so for both flat bar? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no other way. That is the way. Am I missing out never using a lifting belt? No. No. I have a lifting belt. I try to use it for one competition. I try to use it for a year. But of my 36 years of training, I've never used a belt. I'm not missing out. People would always be shocked. Hey, look at the guy lifting without a belt. If you learn how to brace, you learn how to brace, right? And if you want to get into powerlifting and you want to spend $100 on a belt, I can help you get the right belt. But I don't ever feel like I've missed out not having a belt. So take that for what it's worth. Seated cable row at my gym, almost at max plates. Could maybe stack little ones on top, but how to progress? How to progress when you get there? Sometimes you're just going to hit a limit on an exercise, and it's okay to hold steady. Lat pull downs, I haven't really changed in many, many years. Excuse me. Side laterals, I haven't changed in many, many years. Some exercises you're just going to have to enter a holding pattern with or find another exercise. Probably the best choice is to continue to use that, but only every other workout, and in its place, find another exercise you can do that does have some progression window left, if that makes sense. Felix, I've seen online guys using small plates under heels during squats. 9 times out of 10, Felix, this is from somebody that has never been coached and can't get in a proper position on the squat. Their knees are usually in and they have a hard time getting depth, and usually their squat has a number of issues. So just understand, when you see guys like this, they've never had coaching. They're trying to do the best they can to hit depth, and that might help a little bit. But with a little bit of coaching, they're probably going to be better able to hit depth without any shenanigans. Why does the hamstring leg press seem harder than the old-fashioned can't push as much weight? I've in my day, I've seen probably hundreds of leg presses, Tony, and everyone feels different. There was one I had in South Carolina, which was more of a horizontal press, and I can recall doing like 1,000 pounds or 900 pounds for 20 or 30 reps, not just for the rep volume, but it felt good as well. It was this weird combination of intense weight and intense volume, and it always felt freaking amazing. But loading the thing up was like, sweet mother of God, this is going to take forever. It's a workout, and it takes every plate in the gym. So I wish I had the answer to that. Different leverages, different mechanical advantages, all sorts of things. But every leg press is different, and it's always a crapshoot. Where should I feel a regular deadlift and an RDL? When I do I think the best test of where you're going to feel these things the most is if you did a day where you just did a lot of volume on that exercise. And I'm not necessarily advocating that, but I can tell you from experience, I've done exercises where I've done 300 deadlift reps in 5 hours. Yes, I was a little bit mentally ill that day. I've done some charity events like Sit Food for Six where I deadlifted for an hour. On days like that, I tend to feel it in my traps and my lats more than anything. Now, I have a strong lower back, and some of you probably would be unable to walk. You'd probably feel it in your lower back. But for me, when I do a huge volume of deadlifts, I tend to feel it in my traps and my lats. So take that for what it's worth. An RDL, it would probably be lower back and hammies, and maybe a little bit of sweet glute action. Just curious for hypertrophy, 1 set per body part to failure 3 times a week. I wouldn't say that's the best. I wouldn't say that's you need more variety. Volume is beneficial for hypertrophy as well. So I would have a little bit more exercise variety and a little bit more volume. YouTube won't let me comment anymore, I guess. Well, I see it, so you're safe with me. Bree, what's going in? What's going in? What's going on? I just said what's going in to a female client. Sorry. What's going on, Bree? That was completely inappropriate. Strike that from the record, please. Checking in late, but definitely watch tomorrow. Hope you have a good weekend. What do we got here? Daniel Payne, unbeneficial hashtag. G from Finland. Which is better for hypertrophy? First, do all-out sets, rest as many reps as you can. For example, 6 reps, or do, say, 10 reps on – I don't do reps in reserve. If you're going to there's no better for hypertrophy. There's good, and then there's So doing a set where you kind of prime things, where you're doing, say, leaving a couple reps in the tank and then doing an all-out set, I would prefer that as a good starting point, and maybe a third set with some rest pause or drop work. Any idea how to program 2 squats and 1 deadlift from the ground in a week? From Monday to Saturday, because my gym is closed on Sundays. You want to have a day of rest between, so probably Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And you do not, that's your best scenario. You want to have a day of rest. On full body workouts, when I program them, Monday and Friday is squats, deadlift is Wednesday. So I hope that helps. Is it worth focusing on the tibia when doing lower leg training? Back in the day, we had a tibia machine and at the gym, and I played around with a little bit. It really comes down to, do you like training your tibias? Do you like training your calves? If you have a tibia machine at the gym, do a set or 2 a week. No downside at all. My triceps get tired first before my chest during the bench. That's not a problem, Dan. That's not a problem, and you don't fix it. You're always going to have some things that are weaker than others. What you want to do is have a good exercise selection. So bench, dumbbell bench, dips, push-ups, machine chest press. And on your bench, you also want to make sure your grip isn't too narrow. Most people that come to me for coaching, they're actually close to doing a close grip bench press rather than a bench press. So I would look at your bench width as well. But don't worry about things. Don't worry about what gets tired. Don't worry about what gets sore. Have a good exercise variation, Dan, and get everything strong, and everything will work out just fine. Sup, Ben the Barman and the chat. What's going on from Twitch? Do you think that doing a pump work day on a full body workout for the lagging body? No. Pump work is not progressive overload. Okay. Pump work does have some scientific value in a few rare studies, a few oddball studies. So it can be good to do a little bit of pump or finishing work, but a pump day, no. If you have a lagging body part, you need to attack it with harder work and maybe do more of a specialization program. Thank you, Paul. Basically, I can't fail on a squat without nobody. You shouldn't be coming close to failing on a squat. You do bench at your gym, right? What do you do then? Okay, I can't fail on a squat. Okay, I think you're copping out a little bit here. 3 days grace, and I'm just being honest with you because I've done squats my entire life in many gyms, and I didn't need a spotter, and I knew when to stop a set. So I'm just giving you a little bit of honest advice. Do your squats, okay? Stop a set when you feel like your form is going to break down or when you feel like you're going to fail on a rep. That's it, And if you don't want to do that, and I understand, then do whatever you're going to do front squat, but also get in your leg press and hack squats as well. Mr. Kid Sid, is there any different muscle activation when doing bent over rows with supinator? Two different types of exercises, yeah. So it's going to impact the body very differently. It's hard to do the Yates row without having the torso a little bit higher. So there can be some challenges more from a lower back standpoint. But yeah, they're going to impact the body a little bit differently. I would try them both and see what you like. Trap bar deadlift to replace squats? No, nothing replaces squats, and nothing replaces deadlifts. The trap bar deadlift is not necessarily a quad or leg exercise. It's more of a full body exercise. Nothing replaces squats. If you can't squat, then you need to do a lot of leg presses or hack squats or something that has a big progression window. Have you heard of this yet? Have you heard this yet? If you have overweight friends, you should get rid of them. It is 57% more likely that you are obese. Oh my, these studies we need to understand. We need to understand the inherent bias built into studies like this, right? We tend to hang out with people that are like-minded. They're not necessarily making us fat. Look, I have clients that hang out with the wrong people, but before they came to me, these clients were probably bad influences on their friends as well. And people that are trying to get in shape that continue to hang around with people that are bad influences. So I get it, but there's a lot of bias in these types of studies. People with bad habits tend to hang around with people with bad habits. It's as simple as that. First stream popping in, big fan. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it. Are there some machines we should avoid because limited range of motion is unbeneficial? Don't overthink this stuff. We want exercises that have a wider progression window. What exercises have a limited range of motion? Not many of them. I can't think of any machine exercise that has a limited range of motion. Maybe an assisted dip, but done right, anything can add value. If you have something, look at a shrug, that has a limited range of motion. So how do you combat that when you're trying to train your shrugs? By adding in more volume, more time under tension, adding in more reps. Thank you, Invisible. I'm constantly worried, especially during. Look, guys, I'm just going to say this: if you post something in another language and I don't understand it, I'm gonna give you a timeout. Not because I don't want you posting in another language, but you could be posting something rude, crude, or obnoxious, and it's just not what we do here. I'm constantly worried, especially during lifting, about me ruining my back. Relax, Titus. Do you go to any physiotherapist? No. Why are you constantly worried? What kind of toxic cancer has entered your brain? What you need to be focused on is improving form. Lifting's not that dangerous. It's not like you're running on fire through like a war zone or something. No matter what anybody says, you just need to relax. You're worried about it ruining your back, stance, and nerd neck. It's going to improve everything. It's going to improve everything. You just need to work on form. If I progressive overload during a cut, am I building muscle? During a cut, you focus on what you can control, and that is generally trying to hold as much strength as you can. So don't worry about things like this. I've seen some rare people build muscle on a cut, but the point of a cut is to lose fat. Do you think that farmer's walks replace? Stop with the replacement stuff. Nothing replaces deadlifts or squats. No. Is it a bad exercise? No. It doesn't replace deadlifts, though. Most underrated upper body lifts. I'm going to say deadlift variations. Or, excuse me, dumbbell variations. I was stuck on the deadlifts. Dumbbell variations, because they're actually shown in, to be potentially better for hypertrophy than barbell variations. So I know that might surprise you guys. You might think I was going to go somewhere else, but the most underrated upper body lifts are probably dumbbell bench and dumbbell overhead press and heavy dumbbell lifts like that. Thanks for the input. You bet. It is said for beginners after 1 year of training, they should blah, 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 blah. Don't worry about it. What does it matter? Just get strong. I mean, you're aiming. Should I aim for 225 by 1 or 225 by 5? Forget that stuff, guys. Just get strong. If you can do 225 by 1, you're doing good, right? But these things aren't, they're general guidelines. No one gets 315 squat after 1 year. No one. Not in the real world. So I know I probably sound like an ass. And guys, we're almost out of questions. So get them in now or I'm going to be jumping off. Post up your questions now. Focus on 5 years, okay? Focus on 5 years. Because everybody's just short-term. You got to focus on consistency over 5 years and getting super strong. That's my best advice. Do you do cardio on the same days you lift? Quite often. For instance, lifting at 9 and then doing cardio. Yeah, a lot of times I lift and run for an hour or two. So you can. You just don't want your cardio impacting your lifting days the next day. So just structure it wisely. All right, guys, we are done. That's the last question. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back Friday. I'll be back Friday. I'm here every Friday at 11 Eastern. So if I missed any of you guys' questions, head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman if you want coaching or workout. Head over to superlivingtoday.com. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great day.